Before you say yes to anything, make sure you are not saying no to yourself. I'm going to say it again. Before you say yes to anything, make sure you are not saying no to yourself.
Okay, so here's the thing. For the amount of time I've been doing this amazing podcast, the one thing that I've always felt kindred with is the kind of work that all of you do and how it aligns with a lot of what I do as a creative person, but I'm self-employed. I'm always out there trying to generate leads. I'm always out there trying to boost brand, try to keep the promo going, trying to book jobs, trying to close deals. I mean, it is a never-ending process of keeping things going. I mean, it's really, really intense. And, I would ask all of you, when was the last time you took a break? When was the last time you felt like, okay, I'm super relaxed? It's very difficult. But, it's so important to explore ideas about how we can find a balance, right? And not just work-life balance. We hear about that a lot. We're going to talk a bit about that today on the podcast. But not allowing all of this pressure to affect our mental health, which in the end becomes a detriment to the work you're all trying to do. And that's why I'm so excited today to talk to Jhanelle Peters, registered psychotherapist. I'm not going to lie. This one is as much for me as it is for you. But she's amazing, and we're so excited to have her on Real Time. She's the clinical director of Jhanelle Peters Psychotherapy, and she was also the mental health clinician for the championship-winning Toronto Raptors. So I'm going to try to convince her to become a mental health clinician for the Toronto Maple Leafs. We'll see. I know that's not going to hit well with everybody out there watching, but either way, we'll see if we can get her to help them out. You're going to love this conversation. Let's get into it with Jhanelle Peters, registered psychotherapist, to talk about how to avoid burnout. Jhanelle, this is so good. I love that you're here today on Real Time. I am so excited. Your energy, it feels right today. It feels positive. Thanks. It feels bright. Where are you located right now as we speak?
Right now, I am in Florida. We're in Miami.
Nice. And how is it? Is it like we're in, as we record this, we're in the middle of summer. It must be very hot.
Oh, it's still summer. It is all forces of summer still beaming down at you. 34 degrees of it. Okay.
Right. That is hot. That is very hot.
How about you?
I'm in Nova Scotia, where it has been blazing hot with no rain all summer long. And so I'm feeling good. Like we're coming up to a shoulder season now. And it's going to be nice. But, it's pretty easy to feel happy and joy when the sun is out. I'm just seeing now, having just moved my entire family from sunny California, where literally every day a little tiny robot comes out of the lab and flicks a switch, and the exact same weather happens every single day.
I'm glad I'm not the only one that thought that when I was there.
Yeah,
I was like, do I need to check the weather anymore?
Nope. It's VR. It's all VR. It's not real. It's and so we're getting into some dark times. Like a winter in Nova Scotia is going to be a challenge on mental health, which is something you specialize in. Tell me a bit about yourself. Jhanelle Peters, who are you? What do you do?
I am a registered psychotherapist. What does that mean? It means I'm somebody that you can sit and talk to uncover things, to understand things, and to feel better about life altogether. And I've been really lucky to take all of those things and work with various high-performing individuals, including my role and title as the mental health clinician for the Toronto Raptors, which was a great experience. But now I get to spread that energy and work to everywhere else as I have a practice in Toronto called Jhanelle Peters Psychotherapy. Yeah.
Jhanelle Peters Psychotherapy. That sounds amazing. And so anybody can go. I mean, obviously.
Anybody.
Yeah, right. You're probably super busy. So, I mean,
I am busy, but I'll make room for anybody that you send a referral for, Sean. If they say that you referred them, I'll make room.
Well, look, I know today we're supposed to be talking about only real estate and all that, but I'm gonna be one of your clients. So we're gonna start because I'm very high performing as well.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't know why I started laughing when I said that. But either way, I am a very, I'm an independent person. I
Okay.
am constantly on the move. I am hustling all the time. I am self-employed. I am always looking for new opportunities. I'm trying to do the
Mm-hmm.
work in the background to prepare myself. I'm aware that my industry is filled with all these different kind of arms that I need to develop skills in order to excel. But I
Mm-hmm.
also have a family. I have my personal life. So a lot of it can be consuming. And so by saying all this stuff, I think that a lot of realtors, a lot of real estate agents out there have a very similar kind of approach to how they're trying
Mm-hmm.
to, they're not like on a team like the Raptors where I've been hired to play for the Raptors. I'm just going to play my position, but we're all going to work together as a team.
Mm-hmm.
Being a self-employed entrepreneurial actor, comedian, it's very similar to the realtor world. So, I've felt burnt out in my life. That's something that you probably specialize in. What do I need to know?
Well, you need to know that you check almost every box of what a high performing person experiences, and why burnout might surface for them. And I think a lot of people are probably like, okay, Sean, like, I get you. I do that and I do this and I do that. Like, they're counting all the things that you said and they're like, well, how do I know that I'm burnt out? Right. Like, I think
Mm.
that's the question that most people would say because they're like, well, I'm used to doing a lot of things. That's just part of what my job looks like. And
It's my
this is what I have to
personality.
do. Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
I always want to be the best at things. And I'm used to stretching my arms 75 different positions. But does it hurt? Are you tired of doing it? Do you wish you didn't have to do it all the time? And these are some of the questions you might start thinking about when it comes to burnout, because really what that is it's a prolonged amount of stress on your body that almost feels like it has nowhere to go. And so a lot of people hold it and go, just got to do what I got to do. That's just what
Yeah.
this looks like.
Yeah. Head down, keep going. Don't let the feeling of shutdown get in the way of moving forward. Like, I
Right?
feel like there's a bit of that happens, especially when you're under the gun, right? There's so much stress and so much expectation, self expectation. Um,
Yeah.
what do you see across the board when you're thinking about high performance athletes, entrepreneurs, C suite executives? And now we're talking about realtors. Is there a commonality? Is there just a human thing that happens, or are they specific to each?
No, you are so right when you say, is there a common thread? For sure. I think these are the types of individuals who feel like in order for me to get to the highest peak in my career, or in order for me to get to the end point and be celebrated beyond measure, I don't get a break. I'm not allowed to stop, because the minute I stop, somebody else can come in. The minute I stop, it's there's not enough gas in the tank. What if somebody blows past me? What if I don't do as well as I'm supposed to if I take a break? And I think a lot of people have that in common. But one of the things that I've learned in working with athletes that I think everybody can take from is they don't do anything by themselves. And so, yes, they may work individually to work on their bodies and things of that nature, but they have a nutritionist, they have a dietitian, they have somebody that focuses on their body, they have somebody that focuses on their mental state. And I say this to not say spend all your money on all those things, but who do you have reminding you about like the basics, like you were talking about, like resting and eating properly and taking that time out so that you can get to the end and not feel burnt out? Like, who is helping you? What is helping you?
Right. Like, I have a whole team around me when, like, for my slow pitch beer league. Like, I have a stylist, I have a nutritionist who basically gets me beer and pretzels. Um, And I have a big up person who comes and just tells me how awesome I am all the time. Uh,
Uh-huh.
but I, that only costs me like $60
Yeah, but we
a
got
month.
YouTube University for your
Yeah,
dietitian. You
yeah,
got Planet Fitness. But you got two. I call it the number 11. Your two legs.
Right.
Take them outside and go walking, right? Like
Oh, I
that's your
love it.
fitness piece, right? So
Yeah.
there's so many things that you can do to kind of help yourself not to feel that burnout feeling that we'll probably dive deeper into.
Right, right. So when it comes to burnout, what exactly is burnout? Because I think that's a big thing. You hear it all the time. People throw it around as a term. It's like, oh, dude, I feel so burnt out. I'm totally burnt. But what exact is there an actual
There's
medical
a
diagnosis?
definition, but it's
Is there
ugly. So let me just give you the best way to describe it. The best way to describe burnout is, I like to say, it's what happens when you avoid being human for too long.
what do you mean?
So, like, think about it. All the things that you just said, you're like, well, I have to, like, if I'm in real estate, I'm making sure that I'm helping people with closings. I have to make sure that I market myself. I have to make sure that I'm taking the time to gather a clientele, do all these things, go make visits, do open house. I have all of these expectations on myself, and I can't stop, because if I stop, something's going to fall apart. I'm not going to get the deal closed. I'm not going to. So you burn yourself at this pace that is really, really fast. And it's almost like leaving a computer on, right? And so you're like, I can't shut it off. It's got to keep going. But you ever see how your computer pops up and goes like, hey, time for a software update, time to shut me down. I need you to restart me in order for it to work. And as human beings, I know I do it. I go, we'll do it later. I have stuff to do. And we kind of exit out, like install tonight, install later. And sometimes we never get it done. And so I say burnout is what happens when you avoid being human for too long, because you are not a robot. You are not a computer. You need to restart, reboot. You need to rest and fuel yourself with a lot of things that I'm going to share with you, because you are a human being that needs rest. You don't earn rest, you deserve it in order to keep going. So burnout is what happens when you avoid being human for too long, because even your laptop has to shut down. So come
Right.
on.
Right, exactly. And that's just in the workspace. I mean, when you were talking about I need to keep going, I need to keep going, or someone else is going to come in and get that opportunity, but you also have a family, you also have a partner, you also have to maintain, you hear this term work-life balance a lot, and I
Uh-huh.
remember, someone saying that to me. It's like, I'm trying to maintain my work-life balance. Is that an achievable goal, or is that something that, gets thrown around too much? Like, what's your take on how do people find balance?
Well, the thing is, I like to shift it a little bit, because I feel like trying to find balance, like to think of like almost like a seesaw, teeter-totter, is that what it's called? Yeah, when the kids kind of sit on the one end, you're like, how do we balance this out, right? Or a scale. We don't have the same amount of hours to sleep, to move our body, to eat, to spend time with family, to work. We don't have 8 hours to give to all of those. It's not physically possible, and time doesn't allow for it. So balance, when we think of the equilibrium of things, doesn't really sound like it's going to work. But what I like to say is integration. How about we try a work-life integration, which means that you're taking things that you know that you will need in order for you to get to the end and not feel burnt out, and feed them into your day, feed them into your week, feed them into your month, so that
Give me
you're
some
not
examples. Give me some
feeling
examples.
burnt out. So like for me, I find that one of the things that bring me a little bit of joy is in the morning, I will make a parfait, and I'm really extra with it. So like I found like the nicest mug, little bowl thing to put it in.
Mm.
I get like the nice granola that I want. And I actually go over the top, and I'll put like little edible flowers and stuff on top of it. And somebody's like, well,
Ooh.
why do you do all of that? And I said, well, because this gives me a moment for myself. Because I know if I don't do it, I'm the type of person that will go through the day and I'll be like, wait a minute, did I eat? Did I have lunch? I completely
Right,
forgot about that. But if
right.
I give myself this moment to be like, I'm integrating at least my health and my nutrition into my day right here for 5 minutes, that's way better than me not giving myself anything and then being like, oh, wait, I got to go balance it out. I didn't eat 4 meals, right? Like, I'm going to integrate at least something to say, hey, checked it off for myself. At least that was in there throughout the day. So work-life integration means putting certain things in these different areas that are really essential for us as human beings, which are wellness, are your areas of wellness, which are nutrition, movement, um, mindfulness, like any type of mindfulness that you can think of for yourself, whether that's like just sitting down for a moment to breathe, connection, all of those things, integrate them into your day. And that's better than
Right.
than trying to find overall balance.
Yeah, mindfulness, we've been seeing that a lot lately as well. There's
Mm-hmm.
mindfulness. But to somebody who's like, an electrician from Saskatchewan who And no slamming on electricians from Saskatchewan, but I'm just thinking of somebody who's like, what the hell, that mindfulness? What the heck is mindfulness? But mindfulness is not something that is so far out there. It's just even
No.
taking a moment to just be quiet, to calm, to not have the insane chaos be,
Well, can I tell you something, Sean? It's not even just
yeah.
being quiet, because I think some people think that's the only way to feel mindful or relaxed is like, oh, Jhanelle must mean I have to like sit in this position and pose and like crawl my feet into this weird form that I can't get out of. No, mindfulness can mean sitting in the car. How many of you just kind of sit in the car and make sure that you turn on the music that you like as you're driving? Right? How many times have you just listened to a song and you can still find your way home without any type of directions, because you're just kind of, as much as we like to say, your mind's at a relaxed state. You know the directions to get home while you're singing the song. That's mindfulness, right? Curating your favorite playlist, reading a book, talking to a certain person can also make you feel at a relaxed state, to feel like you're being in a mindfulness state. So there's so many ways to uncover that you can connect with.
And I think movement is a big one, obviously. And I think, though, some people take movement as, when we talk about fitness and exercise, there's extreme, but there's also been these studies recently where it's like throughout your day, if you do nothing else other than, for example, do 10 squats, standing where you are, when you have a moment, do 10 and then be done. That goes so far, even just walking. It has such a positive impact on the brain.
Yeah, especially if you're going to add the elements of nature to it and you walk outside, it makes so that is like mindfulness times physical activity. You're multiplying them, you're putting them together, and you're giving your body and your mind something tenfold that can really help relieve burnout.
Right. And obviously nutrition. Nutrition has a huge impact on how we feel, correct?
It does.
For the good and the bad. Exactly. So what you're saying, if I'm hearing you correctly, what you're saying is, the expectation of having work life perfectly balanced is an unrealistic kind of expectation.
Yeah. I think
Truly.
If you can allow yourself to integrate the things that make you feel great. Let's do it this way, Sean.
Yeah.
When's the last time you went on vacation?
Oh, goodness. A vacation. It was probably last year. What you call an actual vacation. Yeah.
Okay. What makes something an actual vacation? Like, what do you enjoy the most about it? What do you get to do on vacation that you don't do anywhere else?
Well, get a hotel, stay in someone else's building with nice, freshly made beds. That's fun. To pick up a phone and have someone just say, bring me my food, and then someone brings me the food, and then I sign something, so they get that. I see new things. I have that experience of newness, which is like, it's a bit exploratory. Some of those things, yeah.
Okay, so let me tell you what I would tell you if you were a client. So you know how you go on vacation and you just mentioned nicely fresh linens, right? A meal that you didn't have to prepare. And being able to see new things. Those are the things that make you feel almost like recharged while you're on vacation that you enjoy. So, when you leave vacation, you come back home, you're like, oh, great. There goes all of the things. This doesn't feel as relaxing anymore. I'm back into my setting, right?
Yeah.
So integration would be like, well, we all know we can't live a balanced lifestyle of vacation and work, right? Can't be like, all right, worked for 3 days, vacation for 3 days. Can't do that. We got to integrate what felt good on vacation into our everyday life so we don't feel burnt out. You can't keep waiting for the holidays to be like, oh, recharge, and then burn out again. So you bring in, do I need to make sure that I have nice linens, right? Do I need to launder my linens a bit more so I feel that feeling when they get made up on the bed? Do I need to say that like, hey, I can't cook every single day because that drains me and has me feeling burnt out with my workload of all the things that you mentioned in the beginning. Maybe Fridays is a day that I order in, and that makes me feel better. Maybe it's making sure that I take a different walk on a path or go see a different show or a different side of town because I need to explore something visually and get stimulated that way. That's what integration looks like in order for you not to feel burned out.
And it doesn't take a lot. It really doesn't.
Oh.
It sounds like doing those little things can go a long way in releasing the stress at, finding that balance. Even when you talk about the work life thing, family life meets work
Mm-hmm.
life, I think doing those things with your partner, for example, in a
Yeah.
small little bite-sized way, as opposed
Yeah.
to because we put so much pressure on ourselves, especially when we are ramped up and I've got this project that I'm focused on, or I'm close to closing this sale, is like, that becomes the all and everything for that period of time. And I feel
Mm-hmm.
like it's okay to want to finish that and follow through on that. But,
Yeah.
but, that's when you need to find somehow like, how can you do that and still feel joyful after it's all said and done?
Well, you make a really good point. It's recognizing the season that you're in. If your season is the head down season for you in real estate, and it's like, well, I am going to have long nights. I am going to have tons of emails to answer, which means I might have to offload some things off of my plate so that I don't feel exhausted doing what I know I need to do. So does that look like I said, ordering in certain meals, having some of them prepped if you have the ability and the privilege to do so, right? Leaning on the people that are within your community and your home and your family to be like, it's busy season. You know what that means? This person takes on this. This person takes on this, so that everybody can still feel like they're not falling apart, right? We're integrating what we need in order to get that thing done for that season. You're right. You don't have to do everything on your own by yourself. And that's why I say tap back to that athlete mindset. There's somebody to help do things for that athlete to perform amazingly well. While they're the only person on that court, there's a bunch of people around them that are supporting them to play at their best. Who are you allowing to support you to play at your best so that you're not burnt out?
Yeah. I mean, I would say that comparison is really hard for people who have no one. There's a lot of people out there that really are
Yeah.
just on their own. They feel like they're on their own. What do you say to those people who really, when it comes to finding a just a self balance, it's not even like a work life balance, but when you don't have that support, what are some things to do other than some of that integration stuff?
Hmm.
Um, because we can wake up in the morning and feel cranky, and then it's hard to get out of that headspace.
I think allow yourself to have um, different modes. And so, like, if I wake up and I may be at, let's say, I'm not at a 10, I'm at a 6, right? I'm not expecting what I do at a 6 to be as equal to what I do as a 10. So what does 6 look like for me? Sometimes you have to sit in that space to be like, a 6 means answering the urgent emails, making sure I get something to eat so I don't feel like groggy and down, and, going out for a walk. That's what 6 looks like. That's all I can manage at this point. But maybe I'm at a 10. I could work the extra hours. I could have just maybe some coffee for the day because that's okay because I feel good. And that's all right on that mode. But I think sometimes you have to gauge where you're at and work within that capacity versus thinking every day move at the pace of a 10 when you're maybe sitting at a 2. That's what causes you to feel exhausted. So having that system built in for yourself to really acknowledge where you're at. If you work within the level of a 6, you might wake up and feel like at an 8 because you haven't exhausted yourself to a point that's like not even realistic, right?
Yeah. I find when things are the most stressful for me, when I'm feeling a little like spun, it's because I don't have control sometimes of my circumstances. How much does that play into the mind of somebody, like a realtor when things are spiraling, there's market conditions. How do you deal with that when you don't have control? Is it about gaining control? Is it about controlling, or is it just about learning to manage? Yeah,
You've
talk
definitely
about
heard
that.
it before. It's the thing where you're going to hear control what you can, but you're like, how? How do I do that when I feel like all these other things are part of what allows my life to sustain itself? So, how do I deal with that? Well, you deal with the fact that, okay, what is it that I still can do within this season that might help me? Market myself to another set of potential clients. What can I do that's going to allow me to feel like, okay, how do I save at least something out of here? What you're going to really focus on is when you talk about what you can control, how are those elements that are actually on your plate going to help you get to the finish line? So what we often do is we look at all the other things and we're like, oh, but that was on the plan for the finish line. And that was, if you keep looking at things that don't actually exist, that are not within your realm, I want you to realize you're not moving. You can't move the things that are not within your control. So you literally end up in a stagnant spot, and that's what feels like you're behind, and that's why you feel like you're not getting anywhere. But if you look at the stuff that are on your plate that are in your control, as small as they might be. They might only be 2 things. I promise you those 2 things can give you at least a step or 2 versus the 6 things over here that aren't going anywhere.
Yeah, that is so helpful. That's so helpful, staying focused on the little things that you can control and do what you can. Now, you keep mentioning seasons.
Yes.
Tell me what you mean by seasons, because I know what seasons are now, especially having moved to Nova Scotia. There's a season coming that I'm not going to be too excited about. But go ahead. Tell me about the seasons that you're
So
talking about. What do you mean by that?
I think it's important for us to realize that not every season is going to be as bright and bloomy and bushy as summer. You know what I mean? Like, we're thinking here, let's use like a plant analogy. You have the season where you're like, you're planting, you're actually like tending the ground and you're putting the seeds in, and there's nothing much there but work, right? It's like, okay, what do I have to get? What's the soil look like? How do I put it? That's a season that usually is pretty heavy lifting. It's going to come with a lot of thinking and processing, a lot of work, and you know that it's going to be busy. So planting season is usually the busy season. If you acknowledge that you have a busy season, this is why I say this to high performing people. I'm not telling you not to work, right? I'm not saying avoid burnout by not working. No, recognize what your seasons look like. So the planting season, heavy lifting. Then you have maybe your tending season. You're making sure you water things, you take care of it, and it's a little bit lighter, but you're putting in the work to watch and see what happens. Well, when the growth season comes around, that's the season where I almost feel like you get to look at what you've blossomed and what's bloomed, and you get to almost relax a little bit, right? Because you're like, all of my hard work has paid off, but I also know that growth season doesn't last forever. We all know plants fade and they die, and they go into a rest period until that they could go back through and start going through the tending and get in bloom. What we don't do as human beings is we see the growth and we're like, oh, look at that. I'm doing well. I got to keep going. I got to go at the same speed. Don't rest. But you need the rest period, because what happens is when a plant sits and it rests, it actually recharges underneath the ground. It's getting roots. It's holding onto the soil. It's picking up nutrients. That rest season is essential for it to go through that cycle all over again. I always ask people, when is the last time that you stopped after your growth, after you looked forward to getting to that point and embracing it? When have you stopped to embrace it, rest, so that you can keep going again? Most people don't do that. They burn themselves out, and then there's nothing left.
Right. And in real estate, there's obviously different seasons, I think. I mean,
Yeah.
there's talk of the winter season, dead of winter. Not a lot of people are out there hustling and buying houses. So what would you say to agents who may be going, well, what should I be doing in that downtime? To, what season would that be, and what, how can I
Well, does that look
manage?
like building up your clientele, maybe posting a few things and informing people of what's happening with the market? Maybe you don't need to be as on and out there. So you could take a little bit more of that vacation, spend more time with the people or things or places that make you feel like you're kind of getting back to your roots, planting that soil again, so that when it is time to tend and do the work and be busy again, you're solid, right? Like, that's what that looks like. And so I think it's really important for you to recognize, when you have that downtime, how can I use it to my advantage? Because when busy season comes, you don't take a break. For me as a therapist, busy seasons fall. It's after everybody's gone playing outside, done all the things that they have to do. So in summer, I'm taking my break because come fall, I need to be recharged and ready. So that's where I'm reminding you of how great, the seasons are changing. And like, when the leaves are falling, that's a new place, time for you to recognize what you can fall into and start new patterns. That's how I start prepping my clients and my clientele to be like, I'm here when the season starts. You would do the same thing in real estate. How do you prep them during your down season for when things are going to pick up?
So when we talk about burnout, you know, I feel like there's always this impression, and I think I felt that before, where it feels like it comes out of nowhere, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not an overnight thing. It's not a blink and all of a sudden I'm burnt out. Like, what are
No.
how can people recognize when it's happening well in advance, so I never let it to get to that point?
So what a lot of people don't know, Sean, is that there are several stages of burnout. You're right. It doesn't just happen, right? And so the first stage is what's called subtle dissatisfaction. And in that stage, it's where you're sitting there and you're like, this is just my busy season. This is what it's supposed to look like. And everybody goes through this in real estate. So you know what's popping up. So you might feel it maybe in your gut. You might feel the tension in your shoulders. You might feel it maybe you're getting headaches. Your body usually gives you a sign and some type of signal that something is not balanced in one of our areas of wellness. Something's off. Then it goes to what's called subconscious disregard. And so this is where you go, that stomach ache is getting a little tight, right? And it's like, okay, I think I'm just exhausted. I think I just need to take a break. I just need to maybe sleep a little bit more. I'll be fine. Doesn't change anything. And then all of a sudden, the headache starts turning into almost like a migraine type thing. And this is where you start moving into another section that's called subconscious numbing, right?
Subconscious numbing.
So what you start to do is, you know what, I'm just going to go watch a little bit of my favorite TV show on Netflix with a glass of wine, some popcorn. That will take away this headache, but it pops up again the next day, right? And so this is where your body starts yelling at you a little bit louder. And it's like, Sean, do you not hear me? Like, I gave you a pimple over here. I gave you some GI issues, a full-blown migraine, and you're still growing. And then it goes into the last stage, which I think is what everybody thinks burnout is right away, which is the full-blown trauma aspect of it. But the numbing and the full-blown trauma almost happen at the same time, where your body goes, you're not listening to me. I'm going to have to shut you down. And that's where you get sick. That's where you get fully exhausted. And it's almost like you have no control over what your body has been warning you to do. So those are the different stages of burnout. And I feel like it's so important to know, because you might be burnt out at the very first one. That still counts as burnout.
Yeah. Subtle dissatisfaction. I totally can relate to that, where it just, there's just a feeling. It's subtly dissatisfying. It's so true. It's like exactly that. So you recognize that. But when you recognize that, it's not like you're going to just pull up and stop. But what is the key? Like, should there be action taken at these points, or is it just okay to recognize? Like,
recognizing it as the first part, you're right.
Yeah.
But the action piece cannot be missed. And you nailed that part. So when you recognize that it's happening, you need to ask yourself, well, what am I noticing? What is happening? And I always say, go back to those areas of wellness that we talked about. Am I missing something when it comes to my nutrition? Am I missing something in movement? Am I missing something in social connection? Am I missing something in that area of mindfulness? What might be missing or off balance for me that it's causing me to feel what I am feeling? And right there, the first step I always tell people, finding the source. You might have to go through a few things and find what is the source, and then identify what is an immediate change that I could do, even if it's the smallest thing, to start removing some of that. So the one change that I know when I was going through this, because I've been through this process before, even though I know better, and I realized what happened to me is the feeling of urgency, like that always, and I'm pretty sure in real estate, people would feel that too, right? Like you open your email and it's like, oh my goodness, I have to respond to this right away. And that feeling and sense of urgency, that's how I started my day all the time. So imagine my cortisol levels every day opening my phone to crisis mode, right?
Right.
I think it's important for you to find the source. That was my source. I started myself startled and alert. So I had to change it. And that was me taking my phone and plugging it in somewhere else. That's what I mean, like an immediate change. And even if for 5 minutes in my day, I got up, I could stare out the window, just lay in my bed for a second before I walked to the bathroom and grabbed my phone, I gave myself some type of integration, some type of calmer state to start my day before I got startled.
Now, you had mentioned those 4 phases that can happen over a relatively long period of time to get to burnout. But what are some tangible signs that someone might be experiencing? Like, what are give me your top 3 to 5 signs that you're starting to go down the burnout road.
Okay, the first one is low energy. And I don't mean the kind, Sean, that you're just oh, I'm just tired. I meant you slept 8 hours and you are still exhausted.
Wow.
That type of low energy is a real prominent sign of burnout, because it's more than just the physical aspect. It's a lot of maybe either emotional burnout or cognitive burnout, like that mental space. You're not
Yeah.
resetting in one of those areas, and your whole body is trying to tell you that. So that's the first
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
I think the other one would be some type of like mental distance. So it just feels like everything that you know you're good at doing, you know that you can do this effortlessly. It doesn't really take a lot of, you just don't want to do it. You don't want to be around people. You don't want to actually do your work. It's just like, I can almost do just the bare minimum. And it goes to the third one. You have reduced efficiency. So it's almost like I could do the bare minimum just to get by, to collect the paycheck. I really noticed that I don't love this whole aspect of life right now, and I don't know why. And a lot of it has no reasoning behind it. It feels like it has no reasoning behind it. So those would be the three that I'd say are the key ones.
Yeah. Joy is sometimes like, how would you define joy? How would you define
Ooh.
joy?
I think it's that feeling that has you full for an extended period of time. It's like a sense of happiness, and it's more than a sense of happiness. I think it's a sense of joy, right? It's a feeling that has you full longer than just like a chocolate bar or a bag of chips. Like, I think, you know what I mean? Like, that can make me happy. I had Starbucks this morning. That made me happy. But joy is what you feel like. For example, for myself, I celebrated my daughter's first birthday the other day. That is a feeling that I'm still kind of on a high from, right? Like, that is joyful for me because what I did to create that and have those months with this little angel, right? So to me, joy is an extended feeling. Think of your Starbucks long lasting, if that's the best way of explaining it.
Yeah. So joy versus numbing, like that's, because some people say like, I am so happy. I am so happy, but are ya?
Like, well, you know what the thing is,
it's hard.
too? Like,
it's hard.
It is hard. It's hard as adults to actually find joy. And I'll tell you why I think it's so hard and why burnout sits longer for us than I think it should, is because as adults, we go back to all the things that we have to fit on our plate. And remember when you're a kid, how joy is just almost like innate. Like, you look at a little kid and they're just laughing at nothing almost, right?
Yeah,
like a
it's
box.
either joy is the default, or it's deathly afraid. Like, it's like pure fear of everything is going to die. Like, a butterfly that was a little not so nice looking landed, and you're going to die. But otherwise 2 seconds later, it's pure joy. That is what I want to have. I want that.
We all want
the
that.
Time.
We all want it all the time. But I think the thing is, we have to remind ourselves that it's built into us. So like, nobody teaches a kid how to feel joy. They laugh at a cardboard box. Nobody taught this kid how to do that. But what happens as adults is we go, there's no time to find joy and play with boxes. I gotta book clients. I gotta market myself. I gotta close these deals. I gotta have the open houses. So you remove everything else and you're like, I only have room on my plate for work. I only have room on my place for maintenance. And we don't make space for joy as adults. And so I think what's really essential is go back to find what makes you happy, what allows a feeling to last a little bit longer. And it might be very different than it used to as a kid, but go back and start from what you enjoyed as a child. I tried the swing the other day. I used to love swings. I realized, you know what? I don't like them anymore. It's too high. It's a little bit scary, but I really did like looking at the view, right? And so I was like, I think maybe if I go sit at a higher peak and just enjoy something stationary, that might feel good for me. So take the time to explore as adults, because we don't do it enough. We only worry about the work. And in order for you to keep going, you need those moments of joy and rest to revive yourself. Like, truthfully, your body physiologically needs it.
So when you say rest, because rest is one that I think that if you're a high performing individual and you got to get stuff done, some people almost wear it as a badge of honor. They're like, I don't need to rest. I'm go. I'm full pedal to the metal. But can that be counterintuitive as well? Like, tell me the importance of rest. Is rest important? Do we need to rest?
You literally spoke like a true high performing individual right there, because you're like, I mean, if I slow down, that's not productive. Why would you
No.
want me to do something like that?
Yeah.
My drive and who I am is to keep going. Let me tell you what happens if you do not rest. So if you do not stop, what you stop your brain from doing is you stop it from going into what's called default mode. And in default mode, your brain actually does so much more things and it is so productive because it
Mm.
actually takes the time to download everything that you've kind of captured for the day. It takes the time to store information. It makes connections. It helps build creativity. It creates neural pathways for you. You might have absorbed something new. And during default mode, when you're actually resting, your brain goes, oh, that's connected to this. You know what, Sean, that might actually go really good with this. So don't forget to put that to the, that's what you're allowing it to do. You're allowing it to release toxins. You're allowing it to bring in new fluid. If you don't give your brain that time to rest, it can't do any of those things. And so when we say we feel mentally fatigued or fogged, it's because there's a buildup of toxin. There's no space to download. There's no space for connection. There's no space for creativity because you didn't allow your brain to go into default mode. Another piece to add to that is, you know how they talk about, you ever look at, I'm going to use a baby again because I have one around me all the time. You ever look at a baby when their eyes are almost open and you can see it like when they're sleeping and it's like tick, 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 and it's going into, they're sleeping and it's darting all over the place?
Yeah.
So we know that as REM sleep. That's probably a really good indicator that somebody is in their deepest form of sleep. But REM sleep only counts for like 17% of your sleep as a person. And what it does during that time, why you're seeing it go like that, it's that download that I was talking about. It's that default mode. When you're in that deep state of rest, it almost goes 10 times faster in making the connections, making the download, sparking the creativity. All of that is what your brain is doing, releasing the toxins. So rest is essential. We all have the rings, the phones, the apps, the watches. If you read it, it will tell you, hey, you didn't get any REM sleep today, or you didn't do this much. You can feel fully rested physically, but is your mind going to have the same type of cognitive space and ability that it's supposed to have if you didn't do that?
Right.
You can't
Listen, I
focus
think,
properly without it.
no, and I think that's the thing. But I also don't think you want it to come to a time where, you're doing something, you whether it's physical or, you have a full like break and you're like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I think I need to rest. It's like, no,
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to get to that breaking point. You want to recognize it and space out the rest. And then each time you get up to go, it's almost like if we go back to the basketball analogy, it's like, you're rotating in and out of the game. You sit for a few minutes, then you get back on. If you just went from the beginning of the game all the way to the end and didn't take any rest, you would
Mm-hmm.
become so terrible. I don't care who
Right?
you are. Nobody can go that long without going reset, reset,
And that's
reset.
why it's built into sports. That's why there's halftime. That's why there's breaks. That's
Right.
why there's whistles. Like, it's there because it's intentionally meant to rest. How many times have you watched a game where somebody intentionally fouls or does something so they can get a timeout or request a timeout so we can rest? We're tired and we know that we need to recharge. So if the highest of high performing people that we admire understand the value of breaks in order for them to keep going so they don't feel burned out, why do we feel like we're going to get any further without them?
Yeah. What are the top 3 to 5 excuses that high performing people use to not rest?
Oh, time is definitely the first one, right? Like, I don't have time to rest. There's no way I can fit that in. And I was like, I bet you can. Like, the same way we're going to sit there and say, well, I don't have time to go to the bathroom right now. We only can hold the pee for so long. You're eventually going to
Yeah.
have to go, right?
Yeah.
Because it is literally a built-in mechanism that your body needs. It needs to release that. The same way your body needs to rest. It needs to pause. It needs to sleep. And we know what happens if you hold your pee for too long, right? I promise you, you will find out what happens if you don't rest and sleep, if you haven't found out already.
Yeah. Yeah. So time is one.
Time is number one. Okay. The second one is, well, if I rest, who's going to do it? There's nobody else but to do it but me. Like, I have to do this, right? And I always say to these individuals, well, if you don't stop, your body will force you to stop. And then who's going to do it?
Yeah.
Right?
So would you say that's a delegation issue from a team
Yeah.
perspective? But like
Yeah, it
delegating
could
to
be.
others to say, hey, listen, I need to rest. you can take it, it's not going to kill me to have someone else do X, Y, and Z task.
Yeah, it could be delegation. It could be just reminding yourself you need that break in order for you to keep going. When you think about being in real estate, we think of like almost the fact that you wear many hats, right? Even if you're part of a brokerage, you're kind of wearing multiple hats in what you do. You're almost like you're a media person. You're the person that stands with the client. So like you're doing all of these things. If you don't take the time to rest and have that break, well, who's going to show up to do all the things that you're saying that you have to balance and the many hats that you have to wear? It's almost a necessity, right? And then I would say the last one is like the guilt that comes from it. A lot of people feel like, well, if I take a step back, I'm going to feel really guilty about this. And it's not, I'm supposed to be able to do all these things. That's what this job comes with. And I was like, yeah, but when you keep going, doesn't that make you feel anxious? Doesn't that make you feel stressed? All of these are signs of burnout, things that come with it, fatigue, frustration, low moods. Are all of those things going to help you book the clients? Are all those things going to help you show up online properly? Are those things going to help you curate the perfect open house? No, right? So stop feeling guilty for taking what is a necessity. Go ahead and do that so that you can keep showing up the way that you want to show up for other people.
It's
For
so
yourself.
funny because it's counterintuitive. Like you want so badly to plow ahead, to keep going. But that's only going to hurt you if you don't have the discipline to take a moment and rest. I
It's
love that.
true.
That's
It's
so
true.
important. Now you
Sean,
were
do you
talking
know?
about,
I was going to ask you a question. Can I
yeah,
ask you a
yeah,
question?
of course. I'm
Okay.
here. You're my therapist.
Okay.
Ask
Well,
away.
you mentioned to me that you're like sitting in this entrepreneurial space as a lot of these real estate agents. You're like, I can resonate with this.
Yes.
I want to ask you what percentage of entrepreneurs do you think experience burnout? Like, what do you think that number is?
100. I'm going to say 100? I say 100%. If you're a pure entrepreneur, I would say 100% experience it at some point in time because everybody they feel like it's all on my shoulders. I've got to keep going because nobody else, you can delegate. And if you don't have a good team around you, until you learn to have a good team, then at some point in your time in your life, I would bet that entrepreneurs have felt
that you hit it.
Burnout.
Okay. I'm going to give you a little wow factor then because studies actually show that it's only 20%. And let me tell you why.
But it's 100% of those 20%.
There you go. But let me tell you why that number came in. And I found it so interesting because they said that people in the entrepreneurial space, they understand that feeling, that creep up to burnout more than anybody else. And they understand it because they wear so many hats and they go, oh, snap. I can't let myself get to that full-blown trauma that Jhanelle was talking about or that anxious feeling because if I do that, this whole business is shut down. I am the business. And so because of that, they actually crawl back out at a faster pace. They don't let it go all the way to that point. They have a little bit more autonomy. Right?
Yes.
And so it's not somebody going, well, you need to do this for me. It's like, well, I need to do this for me. And how would I be able to do that? They get to create their networks a bit more. So you get to pick who are the people that you want in a reflection of your space. What does that look like? And their drive is more self-induced. It's a self-driven aspiration versus maybe working for someone else. So they say that these are some of the factors as to why entrepreneurs only experience 20% of burnout, but it's still a big number. I'm not going to shy away from it because if we talk about 160,000 real estate agents, that's 40,000 people that might be listening to this that are experiencing that. That's a lot.
Right. I wonder how much of it is personality as well. We've met a lot of amazing people on this podcast. And I remember learning about one agent who was really in their own little bubble for many years. They jumped into real estate later in life, but they were very shy. They were very withdrawn. And then, they were very nervous about jumping into real estate. And then when they jumped into real estate, they realized like, oh no, this is unlocking certain things in my personality. And I'm going to open up a little more and become engaged more with the community. It did that kind of like wind in their sails. But then when they started having to deal with social media, they realized, that's not my jam. And I don't know how I'm going to manage it. and it started getting
Mm-hmm.
down on themselves because they're seeing all these other people who are hustling and, sale, sale, sale. Look at me. I'm awesome. Ba, 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 ba.
Mm-hmm.
How would you advise somebody about, managing the social media world? Because it's so important in real estate these days.
It
But it
is. It
also can have
is.
a very toxic effect on the human brain.
Oh, it is such a fun place and scary place to be in at the same time, social media. And
Yeah.
I think the reason for that, what you're explaining, is the fact that I always want to remind people everybody's life can look amazing if we only take 30 seconds of it.
Mhm.
Right? Like, that's what you have to remember. We don't post our most vulnerable and challenging moments online. You're posting the best of the best. You're posting the biggest sale, the nice car, the this. That's what they're putting on there, right? So it's almost to remind you what social media is capturing. I think once you go back to that foundation, you'll be like, okay, yeah, if I picked all my best things too, my page would look pretty cool, right? And then the other part of that too is to remind yourself the comparison piece is not going to get you where you need to go. If you keep staring in somebody else's lane, I promise you're going to miss what's meant for you and yours. And so it's really important that if you're going to be online, if you're going to have to try to find that confidence to show up in that space, put people on your feeds and in your algorithm that are supportive into what you want to have for inspiration, and not something that's going to make you feel like defeat and very negative in your feelings. So
Mm.
curate your social media to what works for you.
Right, right. And that's gonna go a long way in fueling inspiration for yourself as well.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, because I mean, because social media and the internet in general is not a bad thing. It's just, I think we as human beings, regardless of social media or not, like in high
Mhm.
school in the 60s and 70s, it was still the same thing. Your social media was literally in the cafeteria, and so is now dating so and you thought you were going to be
Uh-huh.
dating so and so. They were going to come to the prom with you, and they're not now because they're dating. And I'm like, I'm a bad person, but really I'm not. It's just they were never
Mhm.
right for me in the beginning. So it is really a mental thing where it's like learning to manage all of that input,
Yeah.
to choose the positive. So just speak to me a bit about that, because that is a thing I keep hearing a lot about online, is this
Mhm.
idea of, choosing, having a positive mindset.
Yeah. There are people who are really good at sitting in that positive space. And I think we need those individuals around us that could just always be like, don't forget to look at it from this narrative, or this is how I see life. I know I'm inspired by people who can sit in the positive space all the time, right? Like, I think it's such a skill to unlock. But I'm also very realistic in the fact that not everybody can sit there. So if the negative side is over here and the positive side is over here, not everybody can just go, sure, I'm going to look at this from a positive mindset. It's okay, right? What some people might want to sit in is more of the neutral space, to be like, you know what? Being online is hard. I've never done this before. Showing up as this real estate agent that knows how to do all of these things, I'm a bit new to this. So maybe I need to give myself some time and grace in order to get more familiar with it. So I feel like maybe some of the people that I'm admiring online. To me, that's more of a neutral space than somebody going to positive, like, I'm going to be amazing at this and this is going to be great. And I know I can
Yeah,
do it.
yeah, yeah. I remember reading that book, the what was it? The Laws of Attraction, The Secret.
Uh
Do you
huh.
remember that?
Uh huh.
And
Uh
everybody
huh.
jumped on board The Secret, and it was like, no, if you just close your eyes and see $1 million, poof,
It's going
it's
to
going to
come to
happen.
you.
And now
Yep.
everybody's talking about manifesting, and I think that's a really good thing too. But I always have a problem with that, because it's setting yourself up. Maybe I'm wrong, but it
Uh
feels
huh.
like if you manifest just by thinking of something, um, the and it doesn't happen, then are you
Mm
left feeling less than, and a bit resentful towards the world, versus, again, doing the things that you can control by putting the energy in, and then celebrating the small wins, the small
hmm. Mm
victories,
hmm.
and really celebrating those little victories, as opposed to saying, I want to manifest X, Y, and Z. But I guess if you can't see it,
Mm
you
hmm.
don't really know if it's going to happen. It's a challenging one. I'm on the
It
fence
is a
about it all.
challenging one, but you know what's cool about manifesting? Like, you're right. Like, yeah, you can put stuff in there and start taking your psyche and your subconscious to a place to be like, hey, let's keep thinking about this so it sits at the forefront. What most people don't do is keep flipping the book of manifestation and realize that there's a chapter in there that's about action. You can manifest
Action. It's
everything
all
you
about
want, but if
action.
you don't
Yeah.
do some type of action, that $1 million is not dropping from the sky, Sean. As much as I
No.
wish it could, I've
Yeah.
checked. It's not falling down,
It's
right?
not happening.
You gotta have to add some action behind it. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's the two things.
Action. But I also, there was another doctor I saw who was talking about how you wake up in the morning and you start the day by literally saying the words, today is going to be a great day. I
Mm-hmm.
know this is like, it's not making a claim like, you're not going to have some bumps in the road on the day. But if you start the day by saying today is going to be a great day, your brain doesn't realize that there's a whole world out there in that moment. It just goes, oh, okay, it's going to be a great day because you
Yeah,
said it out loud. So therefore, I'm going to start
exactly.
going down that, today is a great day pathway.
Uh-huh.
And that
And
it's
it's gonna
the
pick up
brain.
things that are a great day.
That's right. The brain is the original algorithm,
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
OG algorithm. Like the more you give it, the more it's going to feed you things that, both the positive and the negative, right?
Yeah, it's true. Whatever you put at the forefront of it. So what you try to focus. You ever want to go on the market to like buy a new car? And
Yeah.
you start thinking of the car and you realize you start seeing that car everywhere. It's
Yeah.
not that there's more of that car that's popped up all of a sudden.
Right.
It's that
Right.
you've told your brain, focus on this car because I like it. I want to know the specs. I want to see. And so now your brain starts focusing on that. So what you put at the forefront is what your
Yeah.
brain is going to do. So when we're talking
Yeah.
about burnout and we're kind of sitting in that space, allow yourself to put at the forefront some of the things that I've talked about, like the
Right.
integration, making sure I sit with those areas of wellness. If you prioritize those things at the forefront, your brain is going to start remembering them and be like, we kind of need to do this in order to feel a bit better.
Right. We've been talking a lot about individuals. You have a good history with teams. And so when I think about, if I'm in a brokerage and I'm the leader and I
Mm-hmm.
start seeing people around me probably who are, perhaps experiencing burnout, but they don't know it. What's some
Mm-hmm.
things that you would tell leaders how to identify it in others and then what to do about it?
The biggest thing to tell leaders is most high performing people that we're talking to in this space are not going to tell you that they're burnt out because they probably don't recognize it. So what you can do is ask people what is on their plate that they might need to take off in order to feel lighter. What can I actually help you with? And stating it from that mindset versus like, is this too much for you? Is that too hard for you to do? Because a high performing person is going to be like, you
No,
can't tell me
it's
I can't
not.
do
I
that.
can do anything.
There's no way.
I can do anything.
I can do whatever
What do you
I
mean?
want, right?
I can do it. I can do it.
Yeah,
Too
sure. Put
much
more on
for
it,
me.
actually.
Too much.
So you frame things in that sense. It allows them to be like, actually, can we look at this plate? Because it is kind of heavy because I'm holding up with 2 feet, 7 arms, and my head,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
like, what can I
Yeah.
put down? I would say
Mhm.
that. And then also mimic what you want other people to experience. Like, are you creating space for people to rest? Are you allowing for actual breaks in their environments for them to take those pause that they deserve and that they
Mhm.
need?
Yeah. Great. That's good. And do you feel that like team leaders well, let me ask you this. What makes a great leader?
What makes a great leader? That is a great question. I would
Mhm.
say somebody who is open to active listening. I think a lot of leaders think that it's like just downloading all the time, but you can't be a great leader if you don't know what everybody else underneath you needs, because that's what you're supposed to kind of take and flip back downwards. And so I would say active listening makes a great leader, and somebody who is actually sitting with a lot more empathy than I think the average person. I think you have to be willing to stand in people's shoes. You have to be willing not to silver line people's situations and really understand them so that you could support them and so that your team feels supported and your organization feels supported. That's what it really is about, because those two things means that you pay attention to the individual and not just the person wearing the badge or the jersey or holding a
Right.
position.
Right. So we've covered a lot of ground. We've talked a
Mm-hmm.
lot about, managing, giving yourselves tools to manage burnout. what would you say would be the most important insights to kind of share with everybody about, managing their own self-care? What would be the most important pieces you would say to them in terms of avoiding burnout?
Whew. Okay. If we're talking to high performers, right? Because I think that's who's in this space. I would say, let me give you a little tip. My tip would be, before you say yes to anything, make sure you are not saying no to yourself. I'm going to say it again. Before you say yes to anything, make sure you are not saying no to yourself. Because I think what we always do is we go, yes, 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 give me all the things I could do and I'm amazing. And then I say no to the break that I wanted, this time I've spent with my family, that vacation I had planned. And then I get resentful and I go through the stages of burnout that we're talking about. So that pause to see if you're saying no to yourself first might be really helpful. Use that as your tip. If you don't listen to anything else, use that.
Oh, mic drop. I love that, Jhanelle.
You're
Jhanelle
welcome.
Peters, registered psychotherapist, awesome person, positive.
Thanks.
I love it. This has been
Thanks,
so
Sean.
good. And I'm so thankful to have spent this time with you. And I know I'm going to take this away and I'm going to go right now and I'm going to bathe in yogurt and eat a parfait out of a bathtub.
Are you going to put some flowers on top of it, Sean?
Yeah, I'm going to, but I got to figure out a way to get, to be in the yogurt and then get out of the yogurt to find because if I reach out of the tub and reach for flowers, then yogurt's going to get all over the floor. My dog's going to eat it and get probably barf.
Sounds like you're about to make everybody happy.
I got to rethink this human parfait thing, but I'll get to it. But either way, I'm going to go work on this right now. Jhanelle Peters, thank you so much for spending time with me in real time. You good luck with everything in Miami and with your practice.
I appreciate it.
Are you currently with specific teens that we can?
Not at the moment. I was doing the mat leave thing, so we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah,
where
you
we
got
go
a baby.
After that. I did.
Congratulations.
Thank you. No, thank you for having me. Thank you for such an amazing conversation. And honestly, awesome. Your vulnerability too, right? To make sure that we all understood what we're feeling. So I appreciate that.
Right. Well, thank you so much. And good luck with everything. And what is your baby's name?
Navy, the color.
Happy birthday, belated Navy. That's amazing. What was her birthday? When was her birthday?
August 24th.
Shut up. That's Mattis's. My daughter's. Shut your mouth. Yeah. Shut it. Oh, seriously? My gosh. Hold on. I got to show you. This was the other day, but she turned 6, August 24th. Aww. Oh, yeah. There it is. Look at that cake. There it is. You see it?
Oh, that's nice. Did you bake it?
It's actually, no, I would bake a Betty Crocker 3-tiered chocolate boom brick. I would do a chocolate brick.
I love it.
Anyway,
I love it.
Oh, happy birthday, Navy. That's so cool. Well, thank you so much. We'll see you again.
Appreciate you. Talk to you later. Bye.
Thank you, Jhanelle. What a great conversation. Man, I like I said off the top, a lot of this was for me as much as it is for you because, avoiding burnout is something that I think we all need to strive for, not just professionally, but also personally. Because if we can learn the tools and apply some of the tools that Jhanelle has shared with us today, it's only going to make us better, both professionally and personally. We're going to be available for the ones that we love and for our own selves as well. So thank you, Jhanelle, for sharing these amazing insights on how we can identify, prevent, and treat professional burnout without compromising success. If you liked today's episode, I know you did. It was a really good one. Make sure you give us a like and a rating on your favorite podcast platform. This episode is brought to you by Canadian Real Estate Association, CREA, and production courtesy of Alphabet Creative. I really hope you had a good one. Thanks for joining us today on Real Time. I'm Sean Majumdar, and we'll see you next time on Real Time. I can try. This is a Value Village purchase, and Value Village rocks. Huh. Like this has been crinkled since 1986, dude.